This old-time radio program was originally aired live, long before the advent of high fidelity. As a result, you may detect an occasional surface noise or volume drop due to transmission problems so common to old radio. We hope, however, that any variance in audio quality will not take away from your pleasure in listening to this, one of the all-time favorite shows. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to rant a little bit more. Today, I'd kind of like to take you back to when I was a kid and you got an allowance. For those of you who might not know, if you did well on your tests, if you did your chores really well, if you just did a lot of things that were above and beyond just normal living, taking out the trash when it wasn't your turn, that kind of thing. You got $1 or $2 as an allowance. It was almost like getting paid to do a good thing. And that was just my parents' way of teaching you, you work hard, you get something for it. Now, I would use my allowance to buy anything that I thought was cool or interesting. A few towns over from where I lived, there was a store called The Fair. Now, for those of you who know the area that I'm living in, Walmart in West Boylston was once The Fair. It was a very locally owned department store. And in the back corner of the store, where all the audio and video and CDs and cassettes and, well, I say CDs, that didn't happen for quite a while, but they did have them once they came out. They had this giant bin of discount cassettes and things they were just trying to get rid of. And that's when I caught on to a cassette series called Radio Reruns. And it was radio shows from the 30s, 40s, 50s on cassette, and I loved that. To me, listening to that kind of thing was like, a bedtime story. Everything was dramatized. You had the actors playing different parts. You had the sound effects. And, radio was king before television, and it really was much more of the trigger for the imagination. When they described a scene, and then you heard the click of the gun, as the guy said to, the person that he was going to shoot, I'm going to shoot you, and you're going to tell everyone about, this criminal. You think about that for a second. You're hearing somebody acting it out. You don't see it, but you have all that sound in your ears. As a little kid, 10, 11, 12, 13, to me, that was kind of fun to listen to because my brain's trying to fill in all the blanks. And, this is what this person looks like. And, there's that sound. And, yeah, that's the gun. And, that's the door closing. And that's the evil guy walking up the stairs. I loved that kind of thing as a kid. You're listening to... This is before audiobooks and audio anything were cool. This was just a recording of radio shows that my grandparents grew up with. And I thought that was really cool. Now, the intro that I gave was actually the intro that all of this one company had for radio reruns. And let me tell you, even today, I love listening to those things. I am not a spring chicken compared to what I was then. I own just about every episode, with the exception of 3 or 4, of an old radio show called The Shadow. Took me a while to find them all. But that was one of the shows that I really learned to love way back in the day, which was a Wednesday, just to let you know. Now, even now, I listen to them. I put them on. Sometimes, before you go to bed, you stick that on, and it's most of the shows are 20 minutes, 25, whatever. And it's like somebody is reading you a bedtime story. I love that kind of thing. My parents did that, bedtime stories and all of that, but this was what radio was referred to was the theater of the mind. That's what this was. It really is. Your brain fills in the gaps. You're sitting there in the dark, and people are acting this out and playing the parts. So what I have to ask you guys is, what do you like? What do you enjoy? Those little things that average society says, you're weird. You're listening to things that are decades beyond you. Hell, even in my music sense, I do a lot of karaoke. One of the oldest songs I sang at a karaoke show was from a musical called Pal Joey. And the song was called I Could Write a Book. Look it up. You tell me. Would somebody know that song if they didn't enjoy or somehow be obsessed with things that were that old? So, again, what do you enjoy that is beyond your years? What do you think is the coolest thing since Betty White? Since she predated sliced bread. That the rest of the world just won't understand. Now let me show you something that illustrates my obsession with something I love so much. My mother was doing our family's genealogy, and when my grandmother passed away, of course, she goes through my grandmother's house, and she's looking through pictures, she's looking through photographs. She comes across this giant photograph on the wall of one of my ancestors, and she wants to get it scanned or copied or duplicated somehow digitally so that she could put it on web pages that have to do with, genealogy. Here is my great-great-great-grandmother, or what have you. You understand. Well, when she took the photograph off the wall, the backing of the photograph, the little piece of cardboard that you put up behind the photo to make it stand up, well, the backing of that photograph ended up being something forgotten by time. Literally forgotten by time. Now, if the camera or the lights are weird, I apologize. But this is what they call a lobby card. When you went to the theaters back in the day, you saw one of these sitting by the popcorn booth to advertise movies that were up and coming. Not the big posters that you usually see on the wall, but this was something a little further back, or something that, maybe they didn't want to spend a whole lot of money in advertising. But here you go. You get your popcorn, you get your soda, you see the picture. That's what's coming up next. That movie, Charlie Chan's Courage, is out of print and missing. I have a lobby card for a movie that, for all intent and purposes, doesn't exist anymore. Now, for me, because I grew up listening to all those old radio shows, and Charlie Chan, again, the old movies, I love that kind of thing. This is a prized possession, and it came across to me purely by chance. And I look at this and I think of how much I enjoy that hobby, or that eccentricity of listening to the old radio shows. In my ideal world, that would be hanging by some old wooden radio with knobs on it that you could turn and listen to the shadow. So my question to you is, what is it that you have in your life? What do you enjoy? What hobby or interest do you have that the rest of the world will simply say, you're fucking weird? But you yourself just don't care. Well, that's about it. That's my final thought. What do you enjoy?